Agatha Christie wrote Nemesis in 1971. It is the last novel that she wrote about Miss Marple. However, it is not the last Miss Marple novel. The last Miss Marple novel is Sleeping Murder, which I'll be reading later, and I'll explain all that later with that book. But this 1971 thriller is, like a lot of Christie novels of this period, looking into the past. A little bit more recent past in this one, but it's connected to another Marple novel, which is a Caribbean mystery, which features the character of Jason Raphael. Jason Raphael is really kind of the puppeteer stage managing this whole mystery, because he's trying to clear up a matter that involved his son, who was thought to have killed a young lady some years before. So instead of just coming out and asking Miss Marple to solve this problem, he advises his lawyers to meet with her and suggest that she go on a house and garden tour in England and just simply investigate. But he doesn't tell her what he wants her to investigate, who was missing, what's going on. And the story, or the mystery, is centered around a young girl named Verity Hunt. Verity, of course, means the truth, so it's a very fitting sort of name. And then, speaking of names, the title of this Nemesis, those of you who remember Caribbean Mystery will remember that this is the name that Jason Raphael gave to Miss Marple. Nemesis, of course, is the Greek goddess of divine retribution, especially when people have an overwhelming sense of pride. So he takes this idea of this avenging goddess and attributes it to this fluffy white-haired old lady who knits. So we get a kind of nice contrast with that. In this one, Miss Marple's really feeling her age. She is traveling with quite a number of interesting people. There's Miss Elizabeth Temple, who is a teacher, a retired teacher, and who was Verity Hunt's teacher. And we have Professor Wanstead, who is a criminologist, and we have Miss Cook and Miss Barrow, two ladies who are traveling with the tour as well, and then we have a very odd collection of ladies. We've got the Bradbury Scotts, and there are three women. One, the oldest sister, is widowed and has come back to live with her two unmarried spinster sisters in this old decrepit house. And one of the interesting things that Miss Marple describes is how that these women remind her of the witches or weird sisters from Macbeth. That when you go see a production of Macbeth, usually they're played with pointy hats and long noses, and they're very kind of melodramatic, very stereotypical ideas of witches. These sisters are more in line with how she thinks that part of Macbeth should be staged. Three women who seem normal on the surface, but there's an undercurrent of something wrong. And these women are connected with the murder of Verity Hunt, in that the two younger sisters, Anthea Bradbury Scott and the other one whose name I can't remember, they were both guardians of Verity's after Verity's parents were killed. And they were with her, and Anthea Bradbury Scott, and they looked after her until she disappeared. The last person she was seen with was Jason Raphael, Mr. Raphael's son. And Jason Raphael was kind of a wild boy, always getting into trouble with the law, but people insisted not the type who would kill, even though most people in the area thought that he did it. Professor Wanstead couldn't really believe that he did it. Even Archdeacon Braberson, who was supposed to marry the young couple, he knew that they were right together, that there was something good about these two, even though this guy was really kind of a bad character in some ways, but that love was very pure. So the novel follows this this bus tour, and they get to one area when they're all hiking, and there's an accident. We have all the characters are hiking up a hill, and the professor, the teacher, she's walking on alone, and a boulder comes loose from a hill above and comes rolling down the hill, hits her, and she loses consciousness. And Miss Temple is taken to the hospital. She's about to die. Her last request is to see Miss Marple, and then she says the name Verity, and she asks Miss Marple to find out the truth. So Miss Marple does, and in Nemesis style, she is relentless until she finds the killer, and she does find the killer. I think for a later Christie novel, this is actually a pretty strong one. The characterization is pretty interesting, and the mystery is quite clever. It shares some plot elements, I think, with The Body in the Library. Because there's kind of a bait and switch that goes along in this novel as well. But as for review, again, these later novels, they get a little bit talky, just like this video review is. And for that reason, that keeps it from being a 5 out of 5. But, I'll give it, for a later Christie novel, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. The next book I'm going to be reviewing is Elephants Can Remember. Another long plotting novel. It's a Poirot novel, and the last Poirot novel that she wrote, but not the last Poirot novel published. And so we'll take a look at that.